Oh, I hear.
But I'm not sure. Alright, say all the time. What? Yeah. We need to figure out what the quiz go.
26. Well, that's what we got for math.
Sorry.
I'm not sure. Yeah, it's on. It's right there. That's what it's on. Right there. He's got it. And that's the discrepancy.
And then
Happy. Shows it to you. Tabular data as well.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you guys so much for
I need to give her something.
Your school in 2017 March breaks was approved to get so
I got two. Oh, she said, you know what I mean?
you all write your speech? You know what to do? Our regular Board of County Commissioner meeting to order. Today's February 25th, and for the record, it is 2:18. Can I get a roll call?
Yes, Chair Roybal,
Here.
Commissioner Hamilton,
Here.
Commissioner Moreno,
Present.
Commissioner Hanson,
Present.
Commissioner Garcia,
Here.
all in attendance. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Next, we're going to go on to the Pledge of Allegiance, the state pledge, and the moment of reflection. The Pledge of Allegiance will be Erica Quintana from the Clerk's Office. The state pledge is Alex Gallegos from the Clerk's Office, and the moment of the reflection is going to be Teresa Roybal from the Clerk's Office.
Allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico and the Zia symbol of perfect friendship among the United cultures.
May our leaders use their wisdom to make decisions in the best interest of the public, now, tomorrow, and in the future. Please bow your heads in silence to reflect on the needs of our community with courage in our hearts to meet those needs with reasonable resolve.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any other announcements from any of the board? No? I know sometimes we do have the moment of silence, but thank you guys, great job. We appreciate you. Thank you. We can do it later on too. Okay, next we're gonna move on to item number F, and this is the approval of the agenda. Is there any changes to the agenda, and if there's not, what's the pleasure of the board? Manager Miller?
Mr. Chair, the agenda, we had no amendments to the agenda as originally posted.
All right, take down the date.
I know.
I move to approve the agenda.
So we have a motion from Commissioner Hanson
Second.
and a second from Commissioner Hamilton. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. So we're moving on to item number G, and this is the approval of the January 28th, 2020 Board of County Commissioners regular meeting minutes. I'm going to go to Commissioner Hanson.
So I have changes that I will give to the stenographer, and with that, I move to approve the minutes.
Signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, we're moving on to item number H, and this is a recognition of new hires. I'm going to go to the County Manager Miller.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, I just want to, in your packets, I just want to point out, we have a few new employees that were hired between January 1st and January 31st, and then I think we might have an additional employee that's here that, behind me. I'll get to that one. So in finance, we have a new department administrator, Athena Martinez. In community services, Antonio Vigil. In land use, I believe you some of you already met, Lee Marie DiPietro, the Senior Planner for Housing. In Corrections, Maria Sepulveda. In Booking. In Public Works, in Projects, Barbara Herrera. And I think you met Barbara, but there she is over there. Barbara is one of our new project managers, moving things along rather quickly.
Yay.
Yes, and then in an equipment operator in our roads division, Dwayne Quintana. And then in the sheriff's office, Samantha Talamonte, sheriff's deputy 3. And then also, because we typically do the month before, as I said, but we did have a new employee start in CSD, and that's Devin Baldwin. And Jennifer, you want to?
Is that okay with that here?
Sure.
This is Devin Baldwin that has come over. He did a short stint with the state and had some previous work with his work here in Santa Fe County and other previous employment with other youth and service related. But he's a great addition to our navigation team, and we're so happy to have him.
Well, great, Dwayne. Well, welcome aboard. I'd also like to welcome all our new hires that were mentioned by Manager Miller. We had Athena Martinez, Antonio Vigil, Lee, Marie DiPietro, Maria Sepulveda, Barbara Herrera, Dwayne Quintana, and Samantha Talamonte. Welcome to Santa Fe County. Do we have any other comments from the board?
I want to just welcome them all and thank them for joining our team at Santa Fe County, and we look forward to seeing you. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you, Commissioner Hanson. Commissioner Hamilton?
Yeah, the very same thing, but it's wonderful to see new people who bring special points of view and expertise to the county, contributes that to the county. So welcome aboard. We look forward to working together.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, so we're going to go ahead and move on to our next item, and this is recognition of years of service. Manager Miller?
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, also one of the things we like to do at the end of the month board meetings is recognize those employees who have continuously served in Santa Fe County in 5-year increments. So if they have stayed with us 5, 10, 15, 20 years, we just send them a note thanking them and a little pen, and I just make sure that I bring that up to you at the end of the month, so you know how many people actually make careers out of being at Santa Fe County. And in your packet, we have a few that have hit some milestones in the Sheriff's Department and Animal Control. We have 3 employees actually, that hit their 5-year mark in February, and that's Charmaine Griego, Antonio Lopez, and Jeremy Lewis. And then in our Corrections Department and Medical Services, our Dr. Olivares, and has also hit a 5-year anniversary on the 23rd. In our Fire Department, and he's here with us nicely, Ignacio Dominguez is in our emergency management, but Ignacio's done several positions with the county in RECC and HR, and now in emergency management. So congratulations, and thank you, Ignacio, for 10 years at Santa Fe County. And then Daryl Garris hits his 15-year mark tomorrow, and he's with our Public Works Solid Waste Department. So I just wanted to recognize them and thank them for their time at Santa Fe County.
Thank you, Manager Miller, and it's always really great to hear the amount of time and service that people put towards the Santa Fe County as a dedicated employee. It's really our honor to see so many people that choose to make their career here. I know one of our commissioners actually did his whole career here at Santa Fe County, and So he's still putting
We
in
don't hold that
his
against
time now. So I really appreciate that, and just really want to thank the employees that we recognize today for the years of service and say congratulations. Any other comments from the board? Commissioner
Yeah,
Hamilton?
sure. It never gets old to thank people for being here for so long, and it's meaningful to the county and to us, and also personally to you, to everybody who has made a career and hits a milestone, and it's good, and that, for that reason alone, it's really worth recognizing it and taking the time to thank them. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Hamilton. Okay, any other comments from the board? If not, I'm going to move on to our consent agenda. Commissioner Hanson?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second under discussion. Commissioner Garcia?
Mr. Chairman, I just have a quick question regarding, let's see here. Regarding the DWI grant, and I don't know if Manager Miller knows this or not. How much can we apply for that grant?
We
And
also have Lupe here.
and also, did the state legislature cut any DWI grant funding? Do we know?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Garcia.
Sir, can you state your name? for the
Oh,
record?
Lupe Sanchez, sorry.
No
Lupe
worries.
Sanchez, DWI program, Santa Fe County. The legislature, to the best of my knowledge, at this point did not cut any funding to the DWI grant this year, so that's a positive thing. Right now, we're expecting, and these are just estimated numbers, they're based off the liquor excise tax, and they kind of estimate what they're gonna bring in. And they're usually fairly accurate, so we're looking at $1,285,000 this for fiscal year 2021.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mr.
Also-
Sanchez, for the clarification. Commissioner Garcia?
Also, Mr. Chair, the tax on the liquor, does that actually go, is it distributed statewide? Or if you have a larger city, does the larger cities, because they have more sales, do they get more money from tax, or it's distributed equally?
Chairman Ribal, Commissioner Garcia, there's a formula that's in place with DFA, and that's correct. All 33 counties get funding from the liquor excise tax, and it's based on the county size, number of DWI-related crashes in the county. But the crashes aren't based on a yearly basis. They're based from, I believe it's like 15 years ago, that number. I'm not exactly sure what year was it. They're basing the number of crashes. It's something that we are hoping that they would at some point adjust and more accurately reflect what's really taking place in the counties in more present time. So there's an equation that's in place that may determine how the funds are distributed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No more questions.
Thank you, Mr. Sanchez. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we had a motion by Commissioner Hanson and a second from Commissioner Hamilton for the consent agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Madam Clerk, can we get resolution numbers for the 3 resolutions that require them?
Yes, Chair Roy Ball, for the record, the resolutions you just passed just now are resolutions 2020, 18, 19, and 20. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Okay, so we're gonna move on to number 3, and these are appointments, reappointments. And it's for the members of the County Open Lands, Trails, and Park Advisory Committee, and we have from the Growth Management, Maria Lohman.
Hi,
Nice to see you, Maria.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners. We need to reappoint or appoint several members to the county's Open Land, Trails, and Parks Advisory Committee. We have 3 members who are currently serving on the committee who would like to be reappointed, including Ruben Cedeno from District 3, and Linda Siegel and Jean Pike, who are at-large members. We also advertised for 1 vacant position, and as you see in the very large packet material, we received 11 applicants for the for the at-large position. Everybody was really incredible. I'm just always blown away at how much people want to be involved and how incredible people are. So after reviewing every single one of the applications, we have made recommendations, which are in your packet, to reappoint the existing members and to appoint Morica Hennessy for the at-large, if that is your agreement.
I'm gonna go to Commissioner Hanson.
Thank you. I agree with you. They're a great group of candidates to choose from, and I would like to make a motion to appoint the 3 members that are present, and I was also especially happy to see a millennial that was interested, and the fact that she's young and wants to serve on this committee. I feel like we need more people in that age group that we don't have, and so I'd also like to include, how do you say her name?
Morica
Hennessy. Plus Jean Pike,
Linda Siegel, and Ruben Cedeno.
Ruben Cedeno.
Okay, so I have a
Second.
motion from Commissioner Hanson and a second from Commissioner Hamilton. Under discussion, Commissioner Garcia.
Mr. Chairman, Ms. Lohman, since there's many individuals that are interested, how does staff go about choosing one of them?
Commissioner Garcia, I went through the applications. Everybody submitted their resume and a letter of interest. Because I had so many, I narrowed it to 3. And then from there, I called and interviewed the top 3 candidates and asked them all the same questions, and worked with planning staff to have a conversation about each one. To be totally honest, it was a very, very difficult decision. Everybody was very highly qualified.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No more questions.
Thank you, Commissioner Garcia. Any other questions under comments from the commissioners? No? Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Ms.
Thank you.
Lohman.
Thank you, Maria.
Okay, next we're gonna go on to item number 4. And this is a resolution amending the Santa Fe County Road Map and certifying a report of the public roads in Santa Fe County. And from our Public Works Director, we have Mr. Gary Hedon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Manager Miller. Annually, Public Works and the county submit a resolution that fulfills the county's requirement to receive its share of road maintenance funds from the state of New Mexico that are generated from gas and motor vehicle taxes. We have updated the report. It is then submitted to the Department of Transportation by April 1st of the year. We have additions and corrections in there, and I wanted to take a second and just talk about what those are. The first one, the addition on Main Street from the intersection in New Mexico 14 to the intersection with First Street, which is 0.34 miles. What happened is that in clarifying the road, we believed that it was the responsibility of the Department of Transportation, and came to find out that it was the county's responsibility, so we are correcting that and placing that on our list, because the DOT had not been maintaining that road at all. And then the second one are corrections, and
Commissioner Garcia?
I'm just wondering, have we adopted that section of Henry Lynch that we, that has already been done, right? That's what I thought.
Mr. Chair, does it need to be added to this list?
Mr. Chair,
Manager
Commissioner
Miller?
Hanson, Commissioner Garcia, we did that. too.
Yeah.
It was adopted prior to when we did the certification last year, so it was added to our list.
Yes, okay.
And we have been maintaining.
Thank you.
Thank you for the
I appreciate
clarification.
it.
And thank you for the question. It was a good question, you know. Go ahead.
And then with corrections, there was an annexation by Edgewood, by the community, that ended up in district court and was resolved on 3/8/17. And at that time, our road list should have been updated. We are making those corrections, and that's what you see there on the second page from Patricia Place down to East Frost Road. And they are for areas of that community that have been annexed, for Meadow subdivision, other subdivisions, the Del Monte subdivision, the future subdivision, and some other roads. And if you have questions, I have Matthew here from traffic, and I have Diego Gomez, the road engineer. With that, I'll stand for any questions.
Mr.
Commissioner Garcia?
Mr. Chair, staff, has the town of Edgewood seen this? Has the mayor seen this, do we know? And the reason why I'm asking, because if some of these individuals are actually, if they had it, that the county was maintaining these roads, yes or no, in the last year or two, and so if we automatically stop maintaining 6.4 miles of roads, I'm gonna get calls. So I'm just wondering.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Garcia, I believe that at the time, and this is what I understand in talking with Diego, that at the time that the district court made its judgment and allowed that annexation to occur, that we stopped maintaining the roads and the list was just not updated after that point. So all of these actions have taken place since 2017.
And also just, this happens a lot of down in that part of the, of southern Santa Fe County is, and I don't know how to go about this, but if we actually, sometimes you see those signs that say county maintained stops here, county maintained begins here, and sometimes it's from here to the end of the building there. And so it makes sense to me if, so whenever the snow plow goes through there, we lift up our plow, it keeps going, then we put down our plow. That just kind of drives me crazy. And I just don't know what to do with that, because it just makes sense. It's a government road, it's a government vehicle, and I understand the whole staffing and how that works, but I just, like I said, I just find it very challenged that we lift up our, I can understand when we maintain the road or when actually we do alterations or upgrade the road. I definitely can see that, but it just kind of, I guess I'm a little
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Garcia, it is an issue of liability that when we start to put our plow down on a road, if it belongs to that local community or it belongs to the DOT, then we are assuming liability for what's going on that road. So we have been extremely careful with that.
So, Mr. Chair, so there's no way we can sign a memorandum, an MOU with the town of Edgewood, as into how can we figure this out? How can we actually work with government to government to see? It's probably something we can look at in the future and how we need to go about doing that, because like I said, it is a government road. And I, like I said, I understand the whole maintenance and upgrades of the road, but those are just some of the things that, like this last 2-3 weeks ago, Edgewood got hit with a storm that was pretty intense down there, and because of the wind, so on and so forth, they got about 15-20 inches of snow in some of those areas, and I just hate to see our snow plow once again go down, lift up the plow, go down, but we can talk about this a little bit later.
Madam Chair, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Garcia, we will discuss this with legal and discuss this with you and see if we can come back with an answer.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for your questions, Commissioner Garcia. Any other questions from the board before we proceed? Commissioner Hanson?
I would like to just know, how many total miles of road do you maintain? I think it's at the bottom, but I'm just, 555.21.
That is correct.
Just in case somebody asks me that question, I want to be
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Hanson. It's always, do we have any idea how much it increases yearly? Not a whole lot, right? Because I think it's been about 500 since I've been in office. Diego probably knows.
So recently there have been some corrections. When I first started in 2011, it was almost 280 miles, and then the city annexed. And so with the annexation, both in the town of Edgewood and the city of Santa Fe, our number has gone down. But based on, acceptance of future county roads and future annexation, that is kind of a moving target. And so we're always around between 550 and 600, somewhere in there, depending on what's going on currently.
Okay, thank you for that update. Okay, so did we have anything else to report on this resolution?
Mr. Chair, we do not.
Okay, so what's the pleasure of the board?
Move to approve.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to approve the resolution amending the Santa Fe County road map and certifying a public report of the public roads in Santa Fe County. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Madam Clerk, can we get a resolution number?
Yes, Chair Roy Ball, the resolution just passed is Resolution 2020-21. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Okay, so we're going to go on to our fourth miscellaneous item, and this is item number B. And this is a request approval of temporary construction and permanent utility easement agreements between Santa Fe County and property owners of Cañoncito. Once again, we have Public Works Department, and we have Scott. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Scott Caseman, I'm the new real property supervisor.
Thank you, Scott. So you can go ahead and proceed, Scott.
Okay, Mr. Chair, Commissioners, today we're bringing to you 17 easements for the Cañoncito Water Improvement Project for your approval. There are 42 easements that are required for this project. Since this packet was submitted, we have acquired an additional 6 easements. We have scheduled 8 other easements to be signed by the landowners this week in the office, or that are being mailed the easements or plats for their signatures because they're out of town. So that leaves 11 remaining easements we have to acquire. We only have mailing addresses for those, and a letter today with an example of the easements going out requesting that they contact the county.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Caseman. Is there any questions from the board? So on the 11 remaining easements, are we going to, do we have any idea more or less the time frame? We probably don't, being that we have to mail them out, but.
Well, we're stressing that we are looking to move this project forward quickly and requesting that they contact us as soon as they can.
Okay, so we don't have an expiration date for them to call at this point.
I can certainly put, the letter will go out tomorrow, so I can modify the letter if we want to put a time frame on that.
Okay.
That's easily done.
That may not be what the board wants, but I'm going to go to Commissioner Garcia, and then I'll go to Commissioner Hamilton.
Mr. Chairman, the resolution says it's temporary easements, or are they permanent easements?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Garcia, there are both. We have temporary construction easements that we need just to build the project, and then once the project's completed, that easement goes away. There are also permanent utility easements that we do require.
And Mr. Chairman, so these easements are anywhere from a utility line? Are we going across the county road? Are we actually going across private driveways?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Garcia, there are times when we are going into someone's land.
So, Mr. Chair, so what happens if an individual has asphalt, if an individual has, let's just say, base course, or their road is upgraded? Is the county going to go and resurface or put their road back to the way it was originally?
I'd like to defer that to Mr. Dupuy.
Just because, Mr. Chair, what happens once in a while is they've seen other utility companies do this, is where they go and put, just to be upfront, gas lanes through some of our areas in La Cienega, and which are a private subdivision, and they tear up their entire base course, and they don't put it back to the way it was whenever the gas company got there. So those are just why I'm asking these questions.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Garcia, this subdivision, Canyoncito, it's only for the water lines within the subdivision, not along the Old Las Vegas Highway. And there are no improved roads, there are no blacktop or base course. It's largely rock or gravel drives. And so it's to restore to the existing condition, but it does not include paving.
Okay. And can you state your record and position for the record, and also for our constituents that are listening on the radio?
Mr. Chair, this is John Dupuy, Santa Fe County Utilities Division Director.
Thank you, John. Okay, was that all your questions, Commissioner Garcia?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to go to Commissioner Hamilton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we're not, it's my understanding that the remainder of the process of getting rights of way or easements and starting some of the construction or the bidding process is going to run in parallel. Is that a true rumor? Because I know this is time sensitive, and I know you guys are taking whatever options. I just wanted to put the question on the table to get the discussion.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Hamilton, we currently have a requirement to, and it's not the county that has the requirement, it's the association's contract with the Finance Authority. And the attorney for the association has certified that the association has easements adequate to construct the project prior to the grant award, but the county intends to acquire the assets of the association because they've requested that in the future. And so as part of this project, we are also acquiring the easements that we will need to ultimately take it over. And so that is running concurrently with the project. And ideally, we'd like to have those easements in place before the construction starts, but otherwise we intend to rely on the association's attorney's letter stating that their easements are sufficient.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner, with the idea that by the time the county takes ownership of that all of those easements will have been acquired so that they satisfy all the county requirements.
Appreciate it. That was most of my question, but the other part of the question was that this is not going to hold up construction given the incredibly tight deadline for part of this project. Is that probably true? I mean, and I'm sure there could be some concerns about that. So, and I see you taking the deep breath, but I figured I might as well put it on the table.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner, all of those issues are not yet resolved. We are working with legal now to have an opinion about what the resolution of that issue is. All things being equal, if everything gets resolved, I think that the RFP will be published this weekend. So we will start to move ahead with the project.
That sounds good. Thank you very much for all those efforts.
Thank you for those questions, Commissioner Hamilton. Okay, so if we don't have any other questions from the board, what's the pleasure of the board on this item?
Mr. Chair, I move
Commissioner
to approve
Hamilton?
these.
We have a motion from Commissioner
Second.
Hamilton for approval and a second from Commissioner Moreno and Commissioner Hanson. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Chair Roy Ball, for the record, the item.
I believe this one didn't have a resolution.
Exactly, and I want it for the record. This is not a resolution. This is an agreement between Santa Fe County and property owners in Cañoncito.
Thank you
Okay,
for that
thank you.
clarification, Madam Clerk. It's always important, especially for our listeners on the radio, so thank you. Okay, so we're gonna go on to our miscellaneous item. It's number C, and this is a request authorization to publish title and general summary of an ordinance amending Santa Fe County Ordinance Number 2014-10, and this is a solid waste and recycling management ordinance, as amended in Ordinance 2018-7 and 2020-2 to specify the solid waste permits do not expire. And from the Public Works Department, we have Mr. Giron again, and this is something that I'm really glad that we did bring forward and that my fellow commissioners supported on making this change. I think it's something that is going to be for the best for our community, and it'll definitely give our constituents the opportunity to completely use their dump permits before they expire. Mr. Giron?
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, I'm going to give background so that people understand how this has evolved. So at the December 10th meeting of the Board of County Commissioners, they authorized publication of title and general summary of an ordinance 2014-10, the Solid Waste Recycling Management Ordinance. And that was to address the concern that purchasers of 3, 6, and 12 trip punch permits in the calendar year 2019 be allowed to have those permits and not have them expire. The BCC held a public hearing on the proposed amendment on January 14th, at which time the BCC requested that the ordinance be written to remove the expiration from the provision of the 2019 waste permits also. In other words, the BCC decided to reach the ultimate goal of allowing purchasers of permits in calendar year 2019 to realize the full value of those permits through a different means. So the BCC adopted an ordinance amendment on January 28th, establishing that solid waste permits do not expire. At the January 14th, 2020 BCC meeting, the BCC indicated its desire to remove the expiration provisions of all solid waste permits. Staff is now prepared to complete a process of removing expiration from all solid waste permits. Therefore, we are asking that the BCC authorize publication and general summary of the attached ordinance, which establishes that Santa Fe County solid waste permits do not expire regardless of what year they were purchased. And I believe that is for 2014 forward into the future.
Thank you for that summarization, Mr. Giron. Is there any other questions or comments from the board?
I just have Mr. Chair, I have a comment. Even at lunch today, at the energy efficiency lunch, a gentleman asked me, why are we still why aren't the permits, why are the permits expiring? I told him that after today they will, or after this goes through, they will not. So it'll be a good thing.
So I thank Commissioner Hansen for bringing that up. I did have a conversation with the gentleman as well today, but it just kind of shows that it's something that was a great concern. But one other thing I want to reiterate is that we need to make sure that we get this out to our constituents. We don't want anybody to throw their permits away when they'll still be able to use them. Also, I'm not sure that our staff completely knows yet at the transfer stations. I did get a call that they didn't take a permit from last year in the Powaka transfer station. So I don't know if that was recently, but I just want to make sure that we are getting the message out to our staff and to our satellite stations that we are. I believe that we're allowing them not to expire, but correct me if I'm wrong, because at one point we were going to give credit, but they're basically not expiring. Is that correct, Manager Miller?
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, what we did is we did make a change to the ordinance already that stopped the 2019 ones from expiring, but because when we published title and general summary for that, it didn't include prospective future ones. This particular ordinance change will make sure that the 2020 permits that people have purchased since January that had a expiration date on them already printed as well will not expire, and in the future we will print them so that they don't have an expiration date on them.
Great, thank you for that. Manager Miller. I think it's really important, and for any listeners that are out there, please share this information with friends, family, and anybody that you think needs to have this information. We will do our due diligence to get the message out to the constituents, and I'll go to Gary. You had something else to add?
Mr. Chair, I also wanted to reaffirm that we are getting the information out. We will make another effort to do that, and I will follow up to make sure that all of our staff are trained on what has been approved to date.
Thank you, Mr. Hidon. As always, I thank you for your due diligence and your hard work. I'm going to go to Commissioner Hanson.
I'll just say thank you for making the effort to reach out to all of the staff, and I think that is really important. I was gonna let
Okay, so Commissioner Hamilton, would you like to make a motion?
Yes. Thank you. I'd like to move to approve this.
So we have a motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it, Mr. Chair. And for discussion, I'd just like to thank you for bringing this forward, and the colleagues also sitting up here to recommend approval for this, and also staff and Manager Miller for working with us, because there's a lot of constituents out there that were interested in this. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Garcia. So we do have a motion from Commissioner Hamilton and also a second from Commissioner Garcia. Although, I mean, we'll go to a roll call. It's an ordinance, right? Or we don't have to do
It's
that?
to publish title and summary.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Hidon.
Thank you.
Okay, next we're gonna move on to item number 5, and this is public concern, and it is still early. It's only gonna be 3 o'clock, so I may opt to reopen matters of public concern after 5 o'clock. So we're gonna go, is there anybody here from the public that would like to address the board? Okay, once again, I'd like to ask if there's anybody here from the public that would like to address the board. Okay, seeing that there's nobody here from the public that would like to address the board, I'm going to go ahead and close public comment, but like I said, I may open it after 5 o'clock again. We're gonna go on to item number 6, which is presentations. This is a presentation of Open Space and Trails Annual Report 2019-2020. And from Growth Management, we have Maria Lohman. Welcome, Maria.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners. In 2019, we adopted the Open Space and Trails Strategic Management Plan. And as part of that strategic management plan, we outlined several goals. One of which was to have more communication, to highlight our goals, but also to celebrate our successes in the Open Space and Trails program. And one of the ways that we identified to do that would be to put together an annual report. So what is before you on the screen and also in your packet is our 2019-2020 annual report. And the intention of this document is, as I said, to recap our goals, what we accomplished, outline our goals for 2020, and also highlight some of those really exciting projects that we worked on during the year. So let's see if I can make this work. There we go. Okay. So we started out the document with just a recap of the vision that was outlined and adopted in the strategic management plan, and put together an outline of why we created this document. We also, the following spread is the 2019, oh, and it went too far. There we go. The 2019 accomplishment scorecard. So this, these 2 pages here are what we identified as projects and priority projects in the 2019 Open Space and Trails Strategic Management Plan. And what we did was we put a status update next to each of the items. So you can see that we were very busy in 2019. We accomplished almost every single one of our goals. Only a couple we haven't even started. And that's okay, because we'll start them over in 2020. And then the following page, if I can... The following page is our 2020 work plan. And we are just as ambitious in 2020 as we were in 2019. And so we have each of our goals separated in resource management, educational programming and stewardship, project development and implementation, and planning and project development. And again, these are all consistent with the 2019 strategic plan. And the highlighted items are specific priorities. So what we want to do specifically in resource management in 2020 is conduct surveys on our open space properties for Pinyon jay nesting colonies. In particular, they're a species of high concern in New Mexico because of climate change and habitat loss. We also want to do surveys for rare plants on our open space properties, and we want to implement monitoring and research programs, including picture post installation, which we've already started, but we want to ramp that up a little bit. So that's specific to resource management, but you can also see that there's a whole lot more under resource management than just those three. So we're going to start on all of these, and maybe we already have in some cases. In terms of educational programming and stewardship, our priorities in 2020 include developing messaging and education material relating to specific properties, but also specifically Thornton Ranch open space. We also want to continue our partnership with the Northern New Mexico Master Naturalist Program. That has been a huge success for Santa Fe County, but also the partners that we've been working with, including Santa Fe Botanical Garden and Randall Davey Audubon. We've had full classes the last 2 years, which have included about 20 master naturalists, and that's translated into 12 volunteers on Santa Fe County open space properties. In terms of project development and implementation, Thornton Ranch Open Space is, of course, a very high priority, as well as the Ortiz Mountains Open Space Forest Restoration Project, which we are coordinating with our wildland crew on. And then in terms of planning and program development, we'll be working a lot on Thornton Ranch Open Space, including developing tribal communications and concerns procedures. We're also going to lay the groundwork to think through interpretive rangers and interpretive programming. And we also want to build a database and have an online platform for everybody to access. I'm sorry, I skipped a page. To access all of this information about Santa Fe County open space properties. So those are our big goals in 2020. I'll come talk to you next year, and we'll hopefully have checked off everything on this list too. And then the rest of our document just highlights some of these projects that we are so excited about working on this last year. Los Potreros Open Space, in particular, was a huge success. We worked with Ecotone and Thule's Trees to do a pasture restoration project, and we turned the dry pasture green, and are going to continue that project into 2020 along with some wetland restoration projects potentially. We also wanted to highlight our work at Talai Hill Open Space, which has gotten us some national recognition in partnership with our wildland fire crew. We have been able to balance wildlife needs with the very important fire hazard mitigation. And so everybody is really impressed with Santa Fe County in how we are balancing both of those very important aspects on this property. We also wanted to highlight some of our exciting trail projects. Both the Santa Fe Rail Trail and the Arroyo Hondo Trail received grant funding to complete segments. So you may have seen construction in El Dorado related to the Santa Fe Rail Trail. That segment is between Avenida El Dorado and Spur Ranch Road, and that construction is almost complete. We've also received funding for the Arroyo Hondo Trail And that construction is almost complete as well between the Rancho Viejo Fire Station and the Diverging Diamond Interchange. But we also received additional funding for that trail to continue those segments from the Santa Fe Community College all the way to the Turquoise Trail subdivision. So that'll make that trail almost complete. We also are really excited about the Pewaukee Valley Recreation Complex. That recreation complex is getting a lot of use. It's very, very popular. And we are implementing the most recent phase 3 of that project, and we're very excited for that. And of course, we couldn't do this without our partners. As I mentioned before, the Master Naturalist program has just been a huge success for us at Santa Fe County. And what this program is doing is providing some very rigorous training for people who are interested in volunteering at these land management agencies. And these people are very, very committed. They show up for class for 12 weeks, for 3 hours a week, plus weekend field trips, and they are incredibly talented. They are so dedicated. And then after they do all of that, they have to put in 60 hours of volunteer hours at one of the partner agencies to be considered a certified master naturalist. Most of the volunteers that we have at Santa Fe County have worked way more than their 60 hours just because they really enjoy doing it for us, and we are so thankful for them. So we wanted to make sure that we called out our partners in that effort. And then the other really successful event that we did this year with help of partners is working with Santa Fe Watershed to do some river restoration on the Santa Fe River. They helped us plant trees and willows, and also they just do an incredible job of gathering the organization, gathering community members to come out and help us clean up the river. So we wanted to really just highlight all of that. So that is my presentation, and with that I will stand for questions, excuse me.
Thank you, that was a really good presentation. I'm gonna go to my board. Any questions from the board? Commissioner Hamilton?
A lot of the surveys and work that you've done this year, is a lot of that done in-house?
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, a lot of it will be done in-house with Peggy Dar, our resource management specialist. We are, there will be a few other things that we will need to request in our budget. Some of those specific items like bat surveys. Bat surveys are something we probably need some help with.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Hamilton. I'm going to go to Commissioner Hanson and then I'll continue with Commissioner Moreno.
So I know we finished the Santa Fe River Trail last year. When do we turn that over to the city?
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, I can't answer that question. I should know that off the top of my head, but I might need Scott Caseman to help me with that. I'll get that answer to you soon.
And then I'm just wondering if you're, besides the planting of trees and other things that we will be bringing up later, I want to know if you're planting like milkweed and pollinator species plants so that.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Hanson, yes, absolutely. That is part of our ongoing projects all along the river corridor to enhance those wildlife environments.
Anyhow, congratulations. It's very nice to have this annual report. I think it's a great idea, and it's a great thing for us to be able to share and show the great work that we're doing. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Hanson, we're just about at that year point in the final inspection on the river trail too. I don't know if they just finished it or it's just coming up, but I was talking to PJ about that last week, that it's right about now that we would have the final inspection for it to be completed under warranty, and then we would turn it over to the city.
Thank you, Manager Miller. Commissioner Garcia?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. this is a good presentation, but I'm going to ask you some questions because I've worked for the county for many, many years, and I'm very concerned that we have not opened some of our open spaces that we purchased probably since 2012. And so I just have a little bit of concern regarding these plans as Commissioner Hamilton brought it up. Where is this money going to come from? You know, we have stuff in here, we're going to, I guess my district has a lot of open space in it, as well as Commissioner Royball's district. Thornton Ranch, 3 years ago, we had one of the staff members say we were going to open it up in a year and a half, and 3 years we still haven't opened it up. We still call in this plan here to work with the Native Americans, and which I thought we were already doing that for the last 3 years. So those are questions that I have on that one. I understand the environment, and I get it. The wildlife, I understand that. Let's see what else I got here. Who determines whether we're going to conduct a survey for bats or for frogs or for lizards? Because like I said, my open space in my area I deal with ranchers in my area, and sometimes some may or may not agree with a coyote on their property because we all know the reasons why or why not. And so those are some of the concerns I have for some of my open space, once again in my rural area, because why not look at a cat? Why not look at a bobcat? And it just concerns me that I feel that a lot of these surveys could or may, and I understand why the surveys are being there, but this could possibly not have our open spaces open forever because of a study or plan that we have in this plan. Another thing is that I don't know if this has or has not happened. Have we actually checked with our maintenance staff to see how this coincides with what they're doing and how they're planning, and whether they're actually certified to look at some of the species of plants that Commissioner Hansen brought up? Let's see, I have some other questions. One of the other things that I thought was very good is in here you put fencing for the new segment of trails, and it doesn't say really who determines that. I've gotten some calls from the individuals at the Diamond Interchange of the new trail that we put out there, and some of those businesses and even some individuals are concerned because this did happen in the city limits many years ago, where people would go sit on the trail and they would radio into somebody and they break in their house once the individuals that left their home to work. But there's that new trail there at the Diamond Interchange, and there's plenty of businesses there that were like, we didn't realize this trail was coming through here. So is the county going to can we put up a fence there? Those are just questions that I have. And then in regards to, it'll be here before you know it, is the fire season. Some of our open spaces have not been maintained for a while. And so this concerned us into, let's take the Santa Fe River. It's way overgrown. I'm not an ecologist, but we still have our beaver deceivers in there. And then those are some concerns I have regarding the open space. Let's see here. Plan. Like I said, it's a great plan, great presentation, but this.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Garcia, I might need some refreshing because I want to make sure that I answer all of your questions, but I'm going to start with the first one. The intent of these work plan items is to be a little ambitious, yes, but we also want to show progress. So the things that are on this list are all things that our open space staff, from resource management to project management to maintenance, have all agreed are priorities. So we have all agreed that we can do this. So PJ and Dave and Cedric and Daniel and Shane and Reyes, they're all on board. You know, all of our guys, Frankie and Chris, everybody, Josue, they know that we're going to be very busy. We've had those conversations. Most of the surveys in particular, we can do in-house. And the reason that we've decided to do that is not to exclude people from our open space properties, but to make sure that we manage our properties in the most responsible way. The point of our open space program is conservation and recreation. And so we do our best to balance both of those together. Our intention is not to keep people out forever. Thornton Ranch open space in particular is very complicated. And we adopted plans in 2017, but we also knew that we weren't going to get that property open in a year, that there needed to be some budgeting of bond funding and some other things. And so we're working through that, and we haven't stopped working on that project since we adopted those plans. We are on track right now to open the property in the next year, and have continually worked on that project. So these items that we've called out in this work plan are specific items that we know that we need to do before this property gets opened, but they're not the only items that we've been working on specifically. I think that answers most of your questions. What did I forget?
Oh, no, I'm just concerned because, you know, we're gonna hopefully go out for a bond now in November, and we need to prove to the taxpayer that we're actually going forward a lot faster than, I wish we would be going a lot faster than we are. And so we need to prove to the taxpayer, look, we're gonna have another open space bond. What have y'all done with the other properties? And that's the question. That's why I'm asking these questions. One of the other things is, and I saw the Los Potatos open space in Commissioner Royball's district, and this happened probably when we first got the property. As into, I forget his name, a elderly gentleman wanted to put some cows on the property and graze it because it was just turning yellow and it was a fire hazard. So have we actually put in this plan to work with, I don't know, farmers, cattlemen? So that maybe we can look at that, because it's all not just about, it's not all just about planting plants, right? It's about, we got to work with everybody that's out there, because those people have worked the land and the properties for way before we were here. So if you can take that into consideration as well.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner, one of the best pieces that I enjoy working on the open space properties is that each property is unique and specific, and it was purchased for a specific reason. So as you mentioned, Los Poteros was purchased to preserve the historic agricultural traditions of northern Santa Fe County. And so we use that lens as we are working through these property management plans or different projects. So everything we do at Los Poteros Open Space, for example, is with the agricultural heritage in mind. So we will always be working towards preserving that. Yes, there might be some wetland restoration projects and some soil restoration, but that is all in the effort of making getting to a point where we can do some agriculture with the community on that property. And work with Yasekia. There are several acequias in that area. So that's, we do a lot of that. And I also just want to address fire hazard risk. We have a really good working relationship with our wildland fire crew. They've been working at Talai Hill Open Space. They have been working at Little Tusuke Creek Open Space. We've had lots of conversations with them about the river and the Ortiz Mountains Open Space. So we are working on, we're working on a lot of those things. And if I can just point your attention to the project development section of our 2020 work plan goals. We have major projects planned. At
What page are you on?
Some page numbers.
I didn't put page numbers. I'll do that next time. It's page 6-ish.
Project and development
Yes, project development and implementation for 2020.
Okay.
So we have projects that we're working on at Madrid Open Space, Ortiz Mountains, Talaya Hill, Los Potreros, Little Suzuki Creek, San Pedro and Lamy Open Space, the Benny J. Chavez Community Center, Romero Park, Santa Fe River, Arroyo Hondo Trail, Thornton Ranch Open Space, Mount Chachaweedle. So there are lots of projects here that we are working on. And those are just, big projects. That's not including maybe some fun activities at Talaya Hill Open Space or those kinds of things.
So, Mr. President, again with the school board. Mr. Chairman, yeah. So when you say you're working on these, what does working on them mean? I guess, is there a work plan, and what's the time frame? What's going to cost? Because we're coming into budget season here, and so I would like to know what does working on them mean? Because like I said, we've been working on them I've worked here for a couple of years, and we've seen this stuff, right? So just sorry if I'm asking the straight up questions, but those are the concerns I have.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner, all of these projects have some scope in either our budget request or our capital request. A lot of them we are leveraging other funds in partnership with BLM, for example, or abandoned mine lands, or we have opportunities for grants. So we are trying as much as we can to prioritize those projects where we can leverage other money. There are some things that we will be moving forward in planning, and there are some things that we might be moving forward in the projects office. There are some things that we are moving forward with maintenance. There are lots of things that we are moving forward with volunteers. And so it really just depends on the project. And I could go on for hours and hours and hours about the specifics. I'm happy to sit down with you and talk about that.
No, a couple of last things, Mr. Chairman. We don't need to go on for hours and hours, like I said, because and one of the good things I know under the current federal administration is we've had a challenge with BLM because they don't have a state director, and it's taken a little while now. They finally do have a state director, and I like when you say public outreach in partnership with BLM, New Mexico Game and Fish, and USFS. And I just want to see our open spaces, and the planning department's come in great strides the last 2-3 years. So I just want to mention that as well. It's not, but show me some product plans, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If I could add something really quickly, I'd like to see if there's a possibility if we can try and get an update in like 6 months, if that would be feasible instead of waiting till next year. That would be great if we could do that. Thank you, Ms. Loman. I'm going to go to Commissioner Hanson as well.
Okay. I realized when I was talking to you, I have mentioned this before, and I'm going to mention it again. Goats to be used as landscaping, and the city's doing it, and so I just want to make sure that we're considering that as a means of weed control in any of our areas. I think that is important. And then I'm hoping that this presentation or this annual report will be put up on the website. Okay, and those are the two things I have for right now.
Thank you, Commissioner Hanson. I'm going to go to Commissioner Moreno.
Thank you. District 5 has a lot of going. I anticipate that we're gonna get the new leg of the rail trail. Expect that this summer, and all of the trails that crisscross from the community college into District 3, and I'm really impressed with the workmanship, we still have a series of projects I'm gonna forward to you later on. But I think I'm really anxious to get on my bike and see what you guys have done. This is really great because it's this project, all the projects put together, we in just a few years that I've been on the commission, we've done a lot of really good, positive projects, and I'm happy about that.
Thank you, Commissioner Moreno. Once again, I'd like to just thank you for your presentation. You guys did a great job. Mr. Olafson, I'm sorry I didn't call you out earlier. The one and only Paul Olafson. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions from the board? If not, Manager Miller?
Mr. Chair, I just want to compliment the staff that works really hard on balancing all of this. As Commissioner Garcia said, this started a little over 20 years ago, this idea that Santa Fe County could take an open space bond question out to the voters and ask them, would you like us to buy open space and preserve it, and also hopefully make it open to the public. And it is a complicated program. It's complicated to figure out that balance between what we open up to the public and what we are just trying to preserve and make sure that it didn't get developed or something else happened to it. And it's also a challenge because bond money is one-time money. Maintaining it is recurring money. And so they are constantly working with the public works staff. We had no maintenance people when we started this program to even put a rake on a trail or do anything like that. So it's been a real balance over 20 years of purchasing, 6,500 acres of property, building, I don't know how many miles of trails, 60 miles of trails. Some of those little single hiking trails and others paved, and the maintenance that comes with that, the doing it and the way that they've planned it out by doing it by segments. And I just want to bring it up because I know we're starting to hit that probably critical breaking point of where we will start to open, not just purchase a property and turn it over to the state to run a park, but to actually have some of our own facilities opened and needing staff. That's going to be a big challenge for the county commission to make those budget decisions on. That's a whole different kind of program for us. Right now, we don't have park rangers, we don't have attendance at our facilities, and we'll be branching into a completely, most of them are, we build the trails, you go use them. We go and fix them if it rains, or do some maintenance on them. Opening Thornton Ranch is a different kind of facility. It's a different kind of facility than Romero Park or the Pewaukee ball fields. We don't staff those. You're gonna have to start considering from a policy perspective how if you want these facilities to be open to the public, some of these open space properties, how do we properly protect those properties and the people visiting them? So you're going to have some challenging decisions ahead from a priority perspective as to how we move forward in that. And obviously the staff's working hard at trying to figure out best ways to recommend things, but it will be a balance from a budget perspective. So I think Commissioner Garcia's questions are fortuitous as to where are we going with this, because what I see on the horizon and the near horizon is having an expanded type of services that we don't currently provide.
Thank you, Manager Miller. Okay, are there any other comments from the board? Seeing none, I'm going to go on to item number 7, and these are matters from the county manager. The first one is 7A, miscellaneous updates.
Mr. Chair, I don't have any miscellaneous updates, but we do have legislative updates.
So we'll go to 7B, the second session of the 54th Legislature, updates and requests for direction on bills that passed both House and are awaiting action by the governor. And we have Hutchie Miller and Tessa Jo Mascareñas. Thank you, guys.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Hutchie Miller, Santa Fe County Manager's Office. I'll just take a moment while Tessa is passing out the report. And in the report, it's separated into 3 different stapled sections. First part has the cover page, black cover page, and the second part is capital outlay projects. And the third part is just I would say a reference list showing all the items which were passed by the legislature this go around. Okay. The legislature this time was fairly organized, and things went according to the governor's agenda. Mostly items were based mostly around budget items for the state, and quite frankly trying to spend a large amount of money which the state hasn't seen in quite some time. We also had a similar session last year, and they were, I think, not used to having so much money to spend, and this time around they were a little bit more used to it and a little bit more fighting for different projects all between the different legislators. The first part of the black covered section goes over all those different items which we had been presenting at previous meetings, which are the governor's agenda items. And for the most part, she did well getting all those items through the legislature in some fashion, although maybe not fully funded as what she wanted to at the beginning of the session. But I think there was only a few of bills related to public safety which were not included in the bill, which later became the public safety package. If you'd like, we'll go ahead and go through the different ones here, and I can just briefly speak about them. And if at any time you have a question, go ahead and interrupt me and let me know your question. The first group of items were related to education. 2 bills in that were House Bill 83, the Early Childhood Trust Fund, and actually the second item, the Opportunity Scholarship, was not a separate bill but was a part of the overall budget. But the first item, the Early Trust Fund, had strong bipartisan support, and that went through, and that did get funding. And the idea behind that is just creating a fund so that in the future, much like the land grant permanent fund provides money to public schools, this particular fund would be set up to provide earlyhood childhood resources. I have here the such services that would benefit from the funding would be home visits for new parents, daycare, and pre-kindergarten. Second item was the Opportunity Scholarship, and that was often noted as the free tuition throughout the state. And the way that ended up being was that in its let's hope that it'll come back again next year and get another allotment of funding so that it can expand and provide more scholarship opportunities for everybody within the state. More so right now, the opportunity scholarship, the way it's set up, is that it more or less follows the lottery scholarship guidelines. And that did receive some criticism because it wasn't an actual bill. I said it was an element within, it was an amendment within the overall state budget. So it didn't run the course like a regular bill, going through committees and getting input and amendments and whatnot, like a regular bill did. So it was kind of an element of the entire budget as a whole, and they had to debate it on both sides on the floor as it came through. But that did pass. The next group of issues are the economy, and the first one here being recreational cannabis. It made it through one committee, got to the second one, and that's where it died. And then I have here in the report some of the issues that were pointed out, and one by the Senate Judiciary Chair was that licensing for marijuana businesses could be given to those who had prior arrests regarding or they had prior drug convictions, or they were had arrests related to drug convictions, but they would still be able to be licensed according to the language in the proposed bill. Another item was that right now with alcohol sales, it's an option to counties to do that. But within this legalized marijuana bill, it just covered everybody, and even if your county wasn't necessarily behind the idea of these recreational cannabis sales, you couldn't stop it. If a business wanted to open up there, then they had that right according to the law. Another big point to the legalization bill here was that a lot of these initiatives are ballot initiatives, so it goes out to the voters, and this wasn't the case here. There's only 2 different states that have gone through the legislative route to legalize cannabis, and that was Illinois and Vermont. And here in the bold on page number 3, these are the specific elements within the proposed bill that are related to counties. And as you see here, that right at the top, local control, a local jurisdiction may adopt rules that do not conflict with the Cannabis Regulation Act. And that's another one of the elements which local rights opponents were stating that it didn't give a lot of say to municipalities and counties as to the legalization and how it's dealt with within each individual community. And that is a big factor because every community is a little bit different depending on where you're located within the state, how your population's made up, and I'll say just your history related to substance abuse issues. So I think that it does take a little bit more, a little bit finer look to deal with each individual locality to get real finite input from those locations.
Do you think it has a possibility of passing next year?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Hanson, it does, and if it gets a little bit more face time with everybody that's involved, I said within the report is that it takes a lot of cooperation and also understanding with policymakers as to exactly how it will impact your different community. And like I said, that there's a lot of factors which makes up each individual community, and it's not going to affect everybody the same. I think it's a very good idea for Santa Fe County to get our specific questions and concerns to lawmakers and let them know what we think might be issues of concern for us. And I think that's something very important to consider here in the interim between now and the next legislative session. Which brings us to the next point here on the those items that impact the county specifically was the 4% excise tax that we could impose on the recreational sales. And that is, we could begin looking at that right now, saying how are we going to utilize this new funding if it comes into law, and what are the issues related to this specifically that we might have to address with that 4%. The next item on the governor's agenda was the para solvency. Right now, the state retirement fund is approximately $6 billion unfunded. And so what that has done is reduce the state's overall bond rating. And so it means that we basically have a higher credit rating, I mean, a lower credit rating. So we have to borrow at a higher rate. And so that was the immediate need for trying to address this. And the changes put forth in this was an infusion of cash, $55 million. And it's also increasing the contribution rates from employees and employers. The good news for the county is that our increases won't be seen for another 2 years, while the state will take effect this year. So if need be, we can take a look at this some more and consult with legislators on how this is affecting us. We can even take a look at the results from how increased contributions are affecting state employees as well.
Okay, Mr. Miller, Commissioner Moreno has a question for you.
On that point, did they fix anything that will affect the county or people who are in the system?
Chairman Roybal, Commissioner Moreno, are you saying that are they fixing? I guess are they making it so that they will know that they have a retirement fund in the future?
Well, there are two funds, right? The PRB, and the PRA, and they're not in sync.
Yeah.
And there's confusion out there in the land. Did they make it better or make it worse?
Chairman Roybal, Commissioner Moreno, I think that would be hard to say until you see the results of these actions or the elements that they put forth in this bill. And like I said, that the main objective was to show to bond raters that the state was making an attempt to not just let this go or let the debt keep increasing. And so, I mean, it's not even certain that this will in fact increase our bond rating and allow us to have lower interest rates as a state for borrowing money. But I think what this shows to them, to bond raters, is that, you know, you're making an attempt and you really are putting forth real dollars that are going into that to that retirement account. As for individual retirees or potential retirees, I think that will take some time to see, in fact, how the entire fund becomes more funded and more solvent. I think overall that you would just feel more secure knowing that there's more money going into it, and that in the future that if there's more money into it, you'll have a higher likelihood of getting your payment received that you put into the retirement account.
Thanks. Little hope.
Thank you, Commissioner Moreno, for your questions. I'm going to go to Commissioner Garcia.
Mr. Chair, thank you. Actually, I just had to come to similar questions as Commissioner Moreno did in regards to PRA and how that affects the existing individual, and then also what percentage does it affect? Is it going to affect the county per year? But I don't know if we've already calculated that or not. But I'll just for time, I'll actually get with Manager Miller or you two. Thank you.
Chairman Roybal, Commissioner Garcia, I think that's a very good question. I think there's more analysis needed to this to show, like you're saying, about employees, because right now there's different sets of how many years you can put in to retire, and then there's public safety, and there's a lot of different classes. So we can take a look at that in more detail and provide that information to you at a later time.
Mr. Chair, on that point,
Manager Miller?
when we do the budget, we go through and we let you know the impact, the fiscal impact specifically to each piece of legislation that's signed by the governor, and how we have to factor that into our budget for anything that will require us to expend more funds, or if we're going to lose any revenues, what we estimate that to be. But specifically on the para plan, as you know, there's different plans. The state, you know, and in that list that Hachi put together, there's different increases by year for the employer and for the employee, depending on what plan they're in. And we have different plans as well, but we're in municipal plans, not the state plan.
Okay, thank you, Manager Miller. Commissioner Garcia, was any other questions? That was it?
That's it for now. Thank you.
Okay, if you want to continue.
Okay. I can go through these next few items a little more quicker. The lift on economically targeted investments as percentage of servants tax permanent fund, which was Senate Bill 136, and that was more or less just giving permission for the SIC or SIO, State Investment Officer, to put forth investments in a different way so that they can hopefully realize a higher percentage or higher interest rate. Next one was Electric Generating Facility Economic District, House Bill 8, and that was related specifically to the closing of a power generating station in McKinley County. So while on the governor's agenda, it wasn't really impactful statewide. The next group of initiatives that she had was under public safety. The first one was Senate Bill 5, and I think most of us have heard about this one, which was the Extreme Risk Protection Order, and that involved court orders taking away firearms from those deemed, I guess, not able to possess a firearm.
It was also referred to as the red flag gun bill.
And that did pass and still receiving a lot of attention from different law enforcement agencies within the state.
And it was actually just signed by the governor within the last hour.
Is she signing other bills today?
Not that we've been made aware of. I just get the notifications as they're signed.
Okay.
Yeah, the last bill that I know was signed on the 20th, besides this one today. So a lot of review going on still with the legislation that was passed and bills being signed. Next group was more of a package deal, and this dealt with, let's see, House Bill 6, House Bill 35, and House Bill 113. And that dealt with permissible payouts from the Law Enforcement Protection Fund, increased penalties for felons using firearms in a crime, sentence enhancements, and the next items below that, while public safety items, they weren't included in the in that package bill, House Bill 6. Those items were increased penalties for violations of racketeering, threats and acts of mass violence, chop shop legislation, and sex offender registration requirements. The next item, HB 184, does relate to Santa Fe County though, and this is allowing law enforcement within schools, and was it shown on page 6? Municipal police and sheriff's departments are entitled to $45,000 each with the passage of this law. The next item under public safety, HB 237, increased penalties for human trafficking. Didn't make it all the way through, but did make it through the House.
What was the problem there?
That I'm not sure. I think it was just because, excuse me, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Hanson. I think just the main issue was it was a complex situation and it was taking a lot of review within Senate Judiciary, which really gets packed and bottlenecked up during later dates within the session.
Okay, thank you.
Page number 7, drug importation, Senate Bill 1. Strong support from both sides that made it through very easily. Next was Senate Bill 139, residency requirements, medical cannabis, and that changed the language back in the law to only New Mexican citizens or New Mexican residents could apply for that medical cannabis program. Next item listed House Bill 100, increase access and affordability in New Mexico Health Insurance Exchange. This just opened up more, it broadened the exchange authority to dictate which plans are sold through the exchange. So just basically providing more options within the health insurance exchange. Next item was Senate Bill 131, tobacco licensing and tobacco and e-cigarettes. This was more of a enforcement issue to fall in line with recent changes in federal law, making it so that you have to be 21 and older to buy or possess tobacco products. Excuse me. And the last item under health was the Kiki Saavedra Senior Dignity Fund. House Bill 225. And those services are for senior citizens and adults with disabilities in New Mexico regarding transportation, food insecurity, physical and behavioral health, case management, and caregiving. There at the bottom of the page 7, we go on to the environment items, Senate Bill 29. This was a credit which had expired, I believe, in 2016.
Correct.
And this renewed that, and this was helping the state overall with residents obtaining solar systems for their individual houses, and also would go to helping the economy and providing jobs in that particular field of solar collection at homes. Next item is on top of page 8, electric vehicle tax credit, and this was a credit to encourage people to buy electric vehicles and also to install electric vehicle charging stations within their home. And,
I have a question, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Hanson?
what, it says, established a 2,500 tax credit for residents whose annual income is above 50,000. Oh, and never mind. And a $5,000 tax credit for residents. Okay. And a $300 tax. Okay, great. That's good. Has the governor signed that yet?
no, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Hanson, not yet.
Okay.
But it being one of the items on your agenda, I'm sure it's going to make it through.
Okay, good.
Next item there is PRC reform, which was House Bill 11. This was an initiative trying to reorganize the PRC as from the way that it is now and making it more of appointed positions from the governor's office. There was still a lot of talk about having people have that right to choose their PRC, and I think that was a holdup with the bill in the committee itself. Right now, PRC commissioners are elected officials, so making a complete change from that, I think was cautionary from other elected officials who are state legislators. Next item is IRB authority for transmission lines, and this refers to the Industrial Revenue Bond Act. And basically within this bill is you're foregoing some taxes that are collected, and what they're trying to change within this bill here is that it says 5% of the total amount of in lieu tax payments to counties, municipalities, and other local entities who levy taxes on the property. They want that to go to the school district. The last item here, Community Energy Efficiency Block Grants, Senate Bill 114, did not make it through and was not passed in this session. So going to that list, you can see, let's say a large percentage of the governor's agenda items did make it through. And dependent upon whether they're finally passed in a manner that she would like to see them have be instated, she will sign off on them or not. The next section, starting on page 9, parasolvency, we talked about that. And the next item, subject on page 9 is unions. And this one is a little complex, and I'm not sure if you would like us to have, provide, I guess, later analysis. And I think that might be even better, so we can even show you, I would say, scenarios specific to Santa Fe County where the changes were made and how they affect us here.
I think that would be acceptable. And is there any others that you would like to bring back to the commission besides that one?
Another one would be House Bill 326 on page 12, tax changes. That's a fairly complex bill, and in the manner that this would affect Santa Fe County, I think would be best demonstrated through examples of how these changes are going to relate to specific scenarios here at the county.
Okay, I think I would be amenable to getting more explicit presentation on those items in the future. Commissioner Hamilton?
I just have a quick question. Are all these bills, as indicated, like the strategic plan for energy grid modification, did it pass?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Hamilton, yes, that did
Okay.
pass.
So that might be another one that might be interesting to get some information, that, unless there's absolutely no relationship to implications for the county.
And we
I
also
think
gave you
there
in
are.
your packets a full listing of everything that passed both houses.
Yeah, you do.
So you'll have that as one of your attachments.
Okay.
Quick question.
Commissioner Garcia?
I don't know if Manager Miller or you guys can help with, on page 12, it says limit on multiple source contracts for architectural and engineering services. Am I reading that right? Or we have to go once a year and go? That the Legislative Finance Committee on an annual basis and to the General Services Department on at least a quarterly basis?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Garcia, I have to look at this one. There was a lot of confusion about this particular bill. There was one, as a matter of fact, that you all, because they actually were taking local governments out of the ability to do multiple source awards for architectural and engineering services. Yet that's not what it was intended. Supposedly it was intended to have a different process. So then they had this other bill, and I don't know what ultimately passed. It was designed to help school districts, but the way that it was actually written took away some authority that local public bodies already had. So I would need to look at this one and make sure, because it's not, it was a different version of what we actually said that we were going to oppose.
Bless you.
So I'll have to go back and look at that one.
Thank you. And also, Mr. Chairman, on page 14, the second one to the bottom is more district court judgeships. Senate Bill 185. As we know, we need to house our district court judges. And do you know if that takes effect next fiscal year, or is it an election? Because do we have space? Because I guess this is my concern.
Mr. Chair, I had to look and see if that one is, I don't think that was it, one for our district.
No, it says one for.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Garcia, my understanding is that how these new judge positions will be filled is through governor appointments. And there was also funding provided within the state budget for these positions as well. Mr. Chair, I just wanted to go highlight some of just a few items more within these last remaining pages. And on page 10 was the lodger's tax, House Bill 117. What that changes is the use of lodger's tax after the first 30 days, lodger's tax collected with some stipulations can be chosen to be used for other county funding. And that would have to go to the county commission to decide if they want to do that. That was an initiative put forth by some of the southern counties because they right now aren't able to use all the largest tax funding that they're receiving right now, but they do need the revenue source to provide public goods within those areas down there because of the vast and rapid increase of employment and population due to gas and oil jobs within that area. On page 13, this bill was the 2020 census, Senate Bill 4. This money will go to different localities within the state to increase or promote participation in the 2020 census. Last year, it shows here that the state got $3.5 million, and then the DFA funneled that money down to the 33 counties. So it's expected that Santa Fe County will be a recipient again of some of this $8 million. The item below that, Senate Bill 117, clarifies exemptions for low income and disabled property owners, and that clears up some language there. Those were the major items there that we were tracking there, but weren't necessarily on the agenda. I mean, on the governor's agenda. On the very last page, page 15, these are showing some of those items which were Santa Fe County interests, but they were not passed. House Bill 229, changes to the election law. House Bill 9, Community Solar Act. And House Bills 29 and House Bill 77 regarding exemptions on people receiving Social Security income.
Okay, so on the sheet that is highlighted under capital outlay, I'll be brief on this, but we got over $3.5 million in capital outlay. I'll just kind of read out the list. If you all have any questions about it, feel free to stop me. We have Acequia del Rincón improvements, Acequias de Chupadera improvements, the Chupadero water system improvements, Edgewood Senior and Wellness Center, Greater Glorieta drinking water project. I know that one was mentioned previously as being pretty important. The Los Pinos Road crossing at Arroyo Hondo, the Madrid fire suppression system improvements, Rancho Alegre Road feeder roads chip seal. Excuse me, some of these titles are very different than what we had presented to them. So also the Romero Park area water line system extension, the Agua Fria wastewater and utility system expansion. They listed what were our asks for energy efficiency improvements, but they listed it as Santa Fe County PV units and electric vehicle charging stations. We got over $2 million for the Santa Fe Recovery Center program facility expansion. We got $90,000 for the Santa Fe County shelter roof replacement. So I think we did pretty well. I think, you know, there's always room to grow. We're always happier to get more of that pie. But I think this year we did pretty well as far as capital outlay goes.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Hanson?
Mr. Chair. So on the capital project, the Santa Fe County Road project, did we get money for roads, or has that not been released?
Yes, we did. That's actually in our next section. Under roads, we got 2 appropriations for the El Dorado roads. We got 2 for, one for Lopez Lane bike and pedestrian improvements, one for Lopez Lane and Olive Frias Street improvements. We got 2 appropriations for Rancho Alegre streets. We got 1 appropriation for Santa Fe County, County Road 78, and for County Road 74. And that's on page 5.
I see. And then is there Mr. Chair, is there a road fund that was given to the DOT secretary, like last year, 50 million, or wasn't there 50 million given to the secretary for road fund, for roads?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner. Yes, actually, the DOT secretary was talking about that in Senate Finance and was stating that other than these projects here, he was thankful for that the legislature was allowing him to look at those items which are priority items within the state and not earmarking them. So those funds that went, other than these that went directly to DOT, are going to be determined by DOT as to how they're going to be spent.
Okay.
So as stated previously, although many of these bills have passed both the House and the Senate, we are awaiting the governor's signature on the majority of them. So we will keep you informed as that information becomes available.
And that includes capital outlay?
Yes. Any other questions?
Any other questions from the board?
No, thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we're gonna move on to our next item on the agenda, and it's item number 8, and this is matters from county commissioners. Commissioners' issues, concerns. Do we have any matters from the county commission?
Yeah,
Commissioner Hanson?
I would like to just ask, and I asked it this at the last meeting, if, or a month ago, if we could please have the presentation that Southwest Architects presented put on the website. I couldn't find it actually, so it doesn't seem, the whole presentation doesn't seem to be put up on the website. And I have been getting calls, and I would just love to be able to direct the calls to the website so that they could see what great work we're doing to protect the beautiful John Galmain building. That's really the only thing I have at the moment. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hanson. I'm gonna go to Commissioner Hamilton.
Thank you. I just wanted to remind everybody that the first Saturday of March, which is the 7th, is Coffee with the Commish at Hondo Station 2. Everybody in District 4 and anybody else who's interested should come over and talk to us about stuff. Saturday morning from 9 to 11.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Hamilton. Commissioner Moreno, did you have any issues or concerns you wanted to bring up?
No, I'm good.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Garcia?
I do have some Just went through a step and happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Catherine.
Can I actually?
Commissioner Hamilton, I'll come back to you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Interestingly, I've actually had some people ask me about county preparedness for coronavirus potential infections. And in some cases, the questions had to do with some cross between the hospital and, you know, emergency management and planning. And I note the county has a very strong emergency management group. And there are other situations I know they have generically planned for, by generic meaning getting in place agreements for, you know, in the case of the need for emergency actions. But so the question still remains, though, specifically, for the hospital, that's not something that's specifically under county jurisdiction, but I think there would be some interest in having the county think about what kinds of plans might potentially be needed should the situation come up. Obviously, there are state resources to draw on as well, but that concern was brought to my attention more than once, and I wanted to bring it forward as a consideration for the county to move on. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, just on that note, maybe we can have a presentation from our, what is the operations emergency manager? To see how do they handle that? How do they handle if that would come forward, or
that might be a good idea.
Major car accident, or a 18-wheeler tanker that hopefully, if this ever happens, goes down on 599.
Okay. Yeah, I think that would be beneficial for us to get that presentation. Thank you, Commissioner Hamilton and Commissioner Garcia. Also, I'm going to go to Manager Miller, and then I'm going to come to Commissioner Moreno.
Mr. Chair, in answer to Commissioner Hansen's request, the presentation is online on the building. It's been online. When you go to our website, if you click on the picture of the actual building and the project that's going on right now, it'll take you right to the headline that says the H-board presentation on there.
Okay.
So it is online.
Thank you, Manager Miller. I'm going to go to Commissioner Moreno.
Thank you. We've engaged the Highway Department in excuse me. We have been working with the state with I'm sorry. I'm pass.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Moreno. So one thing I wanted to bring up is it's getting to that season where I'm starting to get calls from the acequias. So I just want to let staff know, you know, to be ready. I am getting called from the acequia and asking for some in-kind donation. I know we do heavy equipment and dirt work for the acequias. So, you know, it's spring. You know, spring is coming, and you know, we do have daylight savings time that's going to happen right before our next Tuesday meeting. I believe it's on the Sunday right before our next Tuesday meeting. So just to make everybody aware, we do have that daylight savings time that's coming forward. Also, I wanted to congratulate the Poake Choir. They've actually we have the instructor, Miss Isabel Becker Hudson. She's been a choir teacher for approximately 40 years, and she's always with positive reinforcement reinstituted into her students the perfection as a goal. I did want to say that she received an invitation this year to actually fill out an application which requires some letters of recommendation to perform at Carnegie Hall. So they did this. She did fill out the application, and I'm happy to announce that Poake Choir learned this month that they've been accepted to perform in New York City at the famed Carnegie Hall on October 11th for the National Memorial Concert. Miss Hudson did say that she received the acceptance letter from the historic programs, which host the event in January, when she told her students they erupted in squeals and cheers, and some even cried. So it's something that a lot of these students work really hard throughout the year to achieve this level of performance. And you know, there's been a lot that have even said that they did shed a tear when they heard the news. In the 4 decades that Miss Hudson has taught choir, this is the farthest she's taken Powahka singers. A lot of the areas were just to Albuquerque or to Colorado to perform. So this is indeed an honor for the students. They will be going on a 6-day trip, and it is 38 students that will perform at Carnegie Hall alongside with other high schools and students from across the country, which will create a massive choir ranging from 100 to 200 kids. Thus far, the schools from Ohio, Louisiana, and Florida have all accepted, is what they've heard from Chris Meeker, who's the Historic Programs Director. This is the first time that New Mexico will be represented in this event, so I think it's an honor. The event is going to be for the first responders and the survivors of the 9/11 Holocaust, which happened prior to probably all of these kids being born. So there's going to be a lot of history that's going to be brought forward by 911 responders and others that will share stories of the events of 911. So I know that they have created a GoFundMe page, and I do want to see if I can contact the teacher to see if she would be willing to bring the students to perform at one of our BCC meetings. But I do want to just put that out there that, you know, these kids worked hard and they did a great job. And I want to encourage all of our commissioners to look at accomplishments that our kids are doing in different things and different events that they participate in their respective schools, so that we can identify these types of achievements. So I just wanted to put that out there and just congratulate Powahka High School and the kids from the choir, and also Miss Isabel Becker Hudson for her dedication and hard work with our students in Powahka High School. Any other comments from the board? No? Thank you. So we're going to move off of item number 8A, which is comments from commissioners, and go to 8B, a proclamation proclaiming March 10th, 2020 as Tibetan Freedom Day. And we're going to go to Commissioner Hansen.
Thank you. I know I have a few Tibetans here, Lama Jerme and Tashi. You want to come up and sit up at the table, please, all of you? I know there's not as many as last year, but we also don't have as much room. So I didn't really encourage everybody. Please come up. And I'm grateful that to have this proclamation, and I'm going to read it, and then I will bring forth a motion to have it passed. It is proclaiming March 10th, 2020 as Tibetan Freedom Day, whereas Santa Fe County recognizes the rich cultural history and heritage of Tibet and the Tibetan people, and whereas the local Tibetan community of Santa Fe adds depth and richness to our county, and whereas on March 10th, 2020, Tibetans will commence more than half-century of occupation and exile and the exodus of about 80,000 Tibetans across the Himalayas, and whereas the Santa Fe County supports the conclusion of the United States Congress that under the established principle of international law, Tibet is an occupied country whose true representative in exile, the Tibetan government based in India, headed by Singhang Lobsang Sanjay,
And whereas the Tibetan people acknowledge and honor His Holiness the Dalai Lama, recipient of numerous awards from many governments and institutions, including the Nobel Peace Prize and the United States Congressional Gold Medal, as the spiritual and temporal leader of Tibet, and Santa Fe County encourages the People's Republic of China to enter in discussions with His Holiness the Dalai Lama and the Tibetan government to resolve the question of Tibet based on the will of the Tibetan people and ensure respect for the fundamental rights of the Tibetan people. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, the Board of County Commissioners of Santa Fe County, do hereby proclaim the 10th of March, 2020 as Tibetan Freedom Day. And with that, I would like to move to proclaim that day.
I'll second. So we have a motion and a second under discussion. Any other comments? Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Congratulations. Would you like to say anything, sir? Or anybody like to say anything?
This is Tashi. Tashi is the president of the Tibetan Association here in Santa Fe. And yesterday we celebrated Losar, and it was so wonderful to see that there were grandmas and brand new babies, like all of Tibetan descent, and probably over 80 people attended. So it was very nice.
I truly appreciate all the support that we're receiving from all the commissioners, and especially Anna for supporting us all these years, and also helping us with getting the proclamation that we truly need in order to, because we're commemorating 62nd year of Tibetan Uprising Day on March 10th this year. So it has been more than a half century. So we truly appreciate all the support. And hopefully we can keep it going until we do receive some piece of land back, and then finally go home. Yes. And yeah, thank you so much for inviting us here and helping us with our costs. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tashi. Thank you all for being here.
Mr. Chair.
Just Commissioner Garcia?
Really quick, I understand Madam President, I understand the peace situation, but you're welcome to stay in Santa Fe. There's no reason for you to go back.
We're very happy to their contribution to our community and all the unique culture. There is a number of stupas in Santa Fe, which are monuments to the enlightened mind of Buddha. And one of them is on Airport Road. It used to be in the county, but the city annexed it. I think we might want to take a picture. Is that true?
Yeah, absolutely. Do we want to do the next one?
Can we do the next one? Yes.
And
also.
then would you guys mind sticking around so we can take a picture? Okay, great.
Thank you.
So I'm going to go ahead and move on to item number 8, C, and this is a resolution to carry out a collective climate action for the 15th year anniversary of Earth Day, and we have Commissioner Hansen and Claudia Borchet.
So, yeah, and I have a number of other people here. And Sally Rogers, who is also here. Sally, please come up to the table. So 50 years ago was the first Earth Day, and it was actually a clarion call to wake up people about the damages and the impacts that we were doing to the earth with the pesticides and the toxic mining and fossil fuels. Even then, people were aware that fossil fuels were happening, and I want to recognize Stuart Udall, who is one of my heroes, who was also very instrumental in doing a lot to protect our lands in the United States. He created more public lands than any other Secretary of the Interior. And it's really important that we remember people, and part of the reason that Sally Rogers is here, she's in the resolution, is because she hosted the first Earth Day in Santa Fe. And I have known Sally almost since I first came here. I happened to be in Berkeley, California on the first Earth Day in 1970. I also have shared this resolution with a few of my friends and colleagues, and they have asked if I could please make a few amendments to the resolution. And so I would like to ask my commissioners, also part of what we are doing here on Earth Day, which I hope that you have read it, is we are planning to plant trees in each of the commission districts and bushes, and we have selected areas that are places that are appropriate, that have water, that have people who will care for them, and that so we don't just go out and plant trees, but that we are aware of the impact, and that they don't die on us as happened with many things that happen with government. There is a map attached that shows some of the places that we would, in each of the commission districts, that we would like to plant trees and bushes and shrubs. And then these suggestions came in at the last moment, but from our former sustainability director, he suggested that possibly we add the whereas amendment to read the planting of drought-tolerant trees, shrubs, and grasses for the Santa Fe bioregion. And so I want to know, I wanted to include that possible resolution, and then also I wanted to know if we could the county could include a therefore clause, encourage employees and county residents and businesses to participate in the global climate strike called for the 50th anniversary of Earth Day on April 22nd. And I'm supporting that because we already passed the supporting the climate strike earlier late last year, and I would like to include those in this resolution and recognize that that is an important part of Earth Day. So is there, and then Claudia is here, and Jacqueline and Gary, who have been working on this with me, and I want to offer them the opportunity to say anything. Hi, Claudia.
Hello, Chair, Commissioner.
Is it red?
It is red. Does that mean I need to get closer, or?
No, it's not going to broadcast in here the same way as it just records.
Okay, all right. Mr. Chair, Commissioner Hanson, I really don't have anything I was going to say. I was just going to stand for questions as needed. I do appreciate that you said that the map is proposed locations, and we are hoping to engage with each of the commissioners on whether these proposed locations are the right locations, and hope to have the flexibility to change them if something emerges that doesn't make them the right location.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Garcia.
School board. Mr. Chairman, first of all, congratulations, Ms. Rogers, 50 years. That's it's quite a while. Probably seems like yesterday, and to bringing an initiative to Santa Fe. That great job. Thank you for that. Also, thank you, Commissioner Hanson, for bringing this forward. I'd like to be amenable for maybe possibly a location change or two, but we can talk about that a little bit later. And also, Ms. Rogers, I would like to see some way, somehow, if you could actually go to the Santa Fe Public Schools Board and see how we can actually get children involved in Earth Day. I know many of them know about it, but I think there's many of them that don't realize what Earth Day is all about. But you and I can talk about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Garcia, and absolutely that, I think that's a great idea. I want to thank Miss Sally Rogers for all of her hard work for the community as well. I've known Sally for some time, and including endeavors that we've taken on together, having siblings of fostering kids and having siblings of, at least we had two and she had two, and we spent a lot of time working with those siblings together. And so, I know that she has a really great heart and caring for the community and for our earth in general. So I really appreciate you being here today. And what can I say? You haven't changed a bit. I haven't seen you in a little bit, but you look great.
And also, I am bringing forward a proclamation to proclaim Earth Day as Sally Rogers Day in Santa Fe County. She knows. She's working on it with me.
Surprise.
I can't do everything by myself or anything without all of you and without the whole community. So I would like to make a motion. Do you, Bianca or
Noah?
No, hi, Noah. Welcome. Do you have anything you'd like to say?
Sure.
I mean, I'm supporting what you sent me, so I'm putting that in the resolution. What Bianca sent me.
Thank you so much for adding that resolution, and we're just really wanting to support the youth organizing that's happening globally around the climate crisis. So thank you for adding the piece about the climate strike, which is going to be organized all over in every country in the world, again on April 22nd. So we appreciate that amendment and are obviously really excited about this whole resolution and the efforts by the county to address climate resilience in the form of these tree plantings, and also just the acknowledgement of the climate emergency. Not all of our government agencies are acknowledging the emergency that we're facing. So thank you for that.
Yeah. The lifelong environmentalist, I can't think of anything more important to do to talk about the degradation that is happening to our planet that we're living on. And I appreciated Commissioner Roybal speaking about that this morning at a luncheon that we were at. And, we do not have a planet B. We have this planet, and we want human life to be able to maintain on this planet. The planet may survive, but we as species may not. And so I think it is incumbent upon all of us to make every effort that we can to live with right livelihood and protect our species and our animal life and our plant life and our pollinators, and because without them, we will not be here. So with that, I would like to move to approve the resolution with the amendments that I made. And
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second with the amendments that Commissioner Hanson has brought forward. Are there anything else under discussion? Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries, of course, unanimously. Thank you.
And so what we're going to do is we're going to take a picture with my Tibetan friends and family, and then we would like to take a picture with you also over along the side with the with the commission, if you would please join us.
Thank you, Commissioner
okay.
Hanson. Great idea. I do want to go to our Madam Clerk, if she can give us a resolution number for this resolution we've just passed.
Yes, Chair Roy Ball, for the record, the resolution you just passed is Resolution 2020-22. In addition to that, I would like to ask the General Counsel, Greg Schaefer, if all the language for the amendments were captured so that we can have an updated record and an accurate record of what was just voted upon.
I have everything right here, and I can give that to Claudia.
Okay, sounds good. And since it is the next item, Madam Clerk, I'd like to ask if you had any other announcements that you would like to make, because that is our next agenda item.
Before we go take a picture.
Yes, I'd like to mention that.
Yes, if you'd like to.
I'd like to mention that March 10th is candidate filing day, and any candidate running for office, state or county, would file at the Santa Fe County Clerk's office. If it's a multi-county position, the candidate would file in the county clerk's office of their residency. So that's the first one, this March 10th. Next, it was mentioned earlier regarding the concerns of coronavirus. I will be participating in a federal national teleconference regarding the coronavirus because of the elections that we run and the public coming in, and for safety reasons. In the past, I've had to decline watchers from out of the country to come in during a virus concern. So it is important that we and the clerk's office be aware of that. So I would like the contact person who is the lead person in the county for such matters, so that I can invite them to participate in that teleconference with the federal government and with me. And then second, I also like to mention, Chair Roy Ball, with regards to the young people from Pewaukee, the school, that they will be going to New York to perform. I would just want them to know, and the public to know, that we do have a local artist several years ago, Tom Joyce, who created a installation in memory of the victims, the first responders and the victims of that tragedy. And the quote is by Virgil, and it is an iron display. Basically, I can't remember the exact quote of Virgil, but it is that they will be remembered forever. And so I hope that the young people from Pewaukee will notice that an artist from New Mexico put together that installation from the metal that was gathered from the tragedy of that day.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Commissioner Hanson?
And on that point, the Carnegie Hall was also saved by Stuart Udall during his tenure as Secretary of the Interior. It was slated for demolition, and he made it a national monument.
Wow. That's great information. Thank you both.
Okay.
Okay, let's go take that photo.
Okay.
Thank you. Catherine.